Hi guys, and welcome to yet another video here on TrewRehab's videos, and this is 7 diets in 7 weeks, and we are on the end of week 3. Now, as I alluded to last week, we have been a paleo for the week, so it was an interesting week, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So let's just jump straight into it, and as I said, I'd like to thank everyone again for watching. The support's been great. I love all the likes, all the comments, and I guess clients of mine and just random people coming up to me and thanking me for doing something like this 7 diets in 7 weeks, really helping people out and giving you guys some information on some of the current diets that are out there. So the paleo diet, it's a pretty hot topic at the moment. A lot of celebrity chefs out there kind of praising its curative and amazing things that it can do for the body. So I thought I'd jump straight into the deep end and become a paleo for a week. So what is paleo? I guess that's a question we all ask, and primarily it's a diet that has you eating seasonal fresh fruit, fresh veggies, meats, fish, and staying and excluding things like dairy, cereals, and processed and refined foods from our diet. Now, I guess the paleo term comes from the Paleolithic man, so it's meant to be eating more like what our ancestors used to. So foraging and killing food, and then preparing and eating it straight away, and being seasonal about that. So I guess many paleo diet advocates will kind of say that the consumption of our refined foods and things like trans fats and sugars are the cause and the root to all of the many degenerative diseases we're seeing kind of on the increase in our society these days. Things like obesity, type 2 diabetes, depression, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and infertility. All of these things are on the rise these days, even though we're seemingly doing more and more for our health, but they still continue to go on the increase. So the paleos of the world will say that's the reason to why it is, and eating a diet more like our ancestors and being a paleo diet will obviously stop these increases and in many cases reverse them, as if you talk to some paleo. So I guess that's what the paleo diet is all about, and that's what we jump straight into. Now, I'm going to take a question straight away from my viewers, as I always do. What tend to come up a lot this week, and it's also a question of mine when I first started this diet, was why legumes aren't allowed. Because many of us would think foods like lentils, soy, hummus, all those kind of things which are eaten in some diets, and they're also considered like a superior food to some meat alternatives in a vegetarian diet. And so why are these kind of foods considered a non-paleo, and why are they, considered bad as a food? So it comes down to a substance called phytic acid. Now, phytic acid actually binds to the nutrients within a food. So as you consume, foods like lentils, that phytic acid that's inside that food actually binds to the nutrients in there and actually makes the food less nutrient dense. So if you look on the back of the packaging for lentils, it actually shows that it's a very high nutrient based food, but because of this phytic acid, it doesn't allow your body to absorb those nutrients, so it actually becomes a less nutrient dense food than it actually says it may be. So that was some information for me that I didn't know, and kind of answers the question to why legumes aren't allowed. That's not necessarily would I agree to it, but that's why legumes in a paleo diet aren't allowed. Now let's move on to my top 5. So my top 5 in all the diets that I'm doing. So how did I feel? Let's just start at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The first few days of this diet were fantastic. I came across some new recipes, some new desserts, and some desserts that were fantastic, and many of you may have seen my paleo chocolate mousse that I put up, and that was seriously one of the best desserts I've ever had. That was fantastic. So in the first few days I really felt good, because coming off last week, being a vegetarian and not having any meat in my diet, moving into a paleo diet, which is heavily based on meat and fresh fruit and veggies, my body absolutely soaked this diet up and absolutely loved it. And for the first few days, really felt energetic. My mind was clear. I was feeling good. I was lifting well in the gym, running well on the track, and feeling really good about, everything with regards to my own health and wellness. Come Thursday, I'm going to be upfront and honest, and I always said I'd do an honest feedback on all of these diets. I failed, guys. Come Thursday evening, I was in all sorts, and my body really was craving, some grains and cereals that are not allowed in this diet, things like pastas and rices and breads. and I couldn't take it any longer. I really needed some sort of carbohydrate that I just wasn't getting from this diet, and I took myself down to the local Italian restaurant and I bought myself a spaghetti bolognese and basically inhaled that food, and it was the best thing I've done in a long time. I felt great. My mind was much clearer after I had consumed it, and while I feel down about not being able to kind of complete this diet through without, I guess, breaking it, it was something that I needed to do, and it's, I guess, the major downside to this particular diet. So that was Thursday night. That said, everything else this week I followed through to a T, even though it was one of our guys at the office birthday, young Isaac. It was his birthday this week, and there was a chocolate Oreo cake that was brought in for him, and I stayed clear of that, which was very difficult for me because I do love some sweets, but stay clear of that. And on Saturday night, we actually went out with friends as well, and so I ate as close as I could to the paleo diet, but did have a couple of drinks with friends as well. So apart from the Thursday night where it was a real kind of fail for me, everything else this week was pretty much followed through to a T on the paleo diet. Did I like the diet? As I said, in the first few days, it was fine, but the rest of the time, I actually had to fight with myself not to kind of cheat on this one. It was quite difficult, and for that reason, I didn't like this diet at all. I do rely heavily on carbohydrates as a part of my diet, and I think they're essential to our diet, our well-being, and kind of recovery and muscle building, and I just get an overall health and wellness. Now, I guess many paleos who might see this might say, well, you should have stuck it out for longer, go for a couple of weeks and your body starts, I guess, processing the foods that you are eating better, and I would be less reliant on carbohydrates. That may be the case, but as I said, this is a 7 diets in 7 weeks. So I'm just going to the extreme end of every single diet for 1 week, and so my body didn't like this at all. I really needed to have those carbohydrates. I guess the next question, number 3, how easy was it to follow? As I said, it was pretty basic to follow. If you're a bit more strong-willed than me and the carbohydrate thing wasn't so important to you, this is a pretty easy diet to follow. Eat fresh food, don't eat anything processed, and you can pretty much follow this diet very easily. There's no weird and wonderful ingredients. Now, I did kind of coin a phrase this week called the conservative, or the, I guess, orthodox paleo, as opposed to the everyday paleo. Now, they're two worlds apart. The orthodox paleo, as I guess I call them, are very strict and do not kind of bend the rules whatsoever on the foods you can have and you can't have, and they're very strict on why these are the case. For me, though, I kind of followed the everyday paleo, where some of the rules can be bent a little bit on regards to some of the vegetables you're allowed to have and some of the, I guess, other foods that you are allowed to have or you should stay clear of. So if it's easy to follow, if you kind of go the everyday paleo, I think this is a very easy diet to follow. If you want to go the real extreme end to kind of take the I guess, the orthodox approach to it, then you would find it a bit more difficult. There's quite a few things that you need to do. Your food to kind of make sure they're prepped right. It's very difficult to eat out on this particular diet, although that said, there are a lot of cafes and I guess restaurants opening up now that are paleo restaurants, and again, they're varying degrees of how paleo they are in regards to how they source their food, where they get their food from, how they go about preparing their food. But they are coming up about, and this diet is definitely growing in popularity. So it's definitely here to stay, and people who are advocates of it do love it. And as I said, most of it, I think it does follow a very good trend in getting rid of a lot of those refined sugars and I guess a lot of processed food out of our diet. But what I didn't like about it was, as I said, the complete elimination of all cereals, grains, and dairy out of your diet as well. Was it costly? Again, eating fresh, wholesome, whole food is actually quite a cheap and effective way of eating. The fact that you have to buy a little bit more meat, and there's quite a bit more meat involved in this diet, does make it slightly more expensive. But then again, there's not really any weird and wonderful foods that you need to kind of go and stock your shelves full of if you want to just become, I guess, an everyday diet, everyday paleo, sorry. So a pretty cost-effective diet again. And I guess number 5, would I recommend it? Categorically, no. For me, this diet just doesn't resonate in, I guess, our everyday life. Now, many paleos would say that the overconsumption of many of these foods, like the cereals and grains that I'm talking about, and the high sugars and the processed foods, are kind of causing many of the degenerative diseases we're seeing. That, in short, may be a case in point. However, if you start eliminating some of the refined foods and the processed foods out of your diet, which I certainly recommend you do, I think you can see some great health benefits I guess, within your own diet without the elimination of some carbohydrates. Now that's not to say you go and eat, a big bowl of pasta every single night, or buy, fluffy white bread from, a shopping centre or something like that. You've got to be careful about the kind of food you do have when you are looking at those grains. But I think some grains in your diet are completely fine. So I say go for it. And I guess just to finish off, next week, we're going to be moving now into a gluten-free diet. Now, gluten-free is becoming very popular these days because of, again, the, demonization of gluten in our foods, causing a lot of, intolerances or, stomach issues and, nutritional issues that come with eating foods that have gluten in them. Now, there's a very small part of the population who are celiac that obviously you must stay very clear of. However, the marketing and the media have got a hold of this and kind of, cramming it down our throats that we must be gluten-free. So I'm diving straight into the deep end of gluten-free. I'm not going to avoid gluten altogether. I could very easily just have a nice fresh fruit, fresh vegetable and fresh meat type based diet. I'm actually going out there and I'm going to buy those gluten-free products, and let's kind of really put them to the test and see how it is to eat a gluten-free pasta or a gluten-free bread, and maybe look at some recipes for some desserts to actually test out some gluten-free desserts and things like that. So I'm going to dive into the deep end and actually see how it all goes. So this week, gluten-free, as I said, the paleo diet, not my favourite diet and something I certainly wouldn't recommend personally, and certainly one to stay clear of if you ask me. There's certainly a lot of other things we could do for our diets and our health that would, get the benefits that paleo advocate without kind of completely eliminating and demonizing some of the things that they certainly do. So that's been paleo this week. Again, guys, I'd love to just say thank you. If you can like this video, if you can share this video, if you can post it to whoever might be interested, that'd be great. Subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with other videos we've got coming up. And again, a big thank you to everyone, and I'll see you next week after we review the gluten-free diet. Thanks again, guys.